So hi Jerry, how are you today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Thank you for having me today to talk about iconic journeys worldwide, and of course talking about the travel industry in general after the COVID-19 global pandemic. Before we get started, how about you give us a general overview of iconic journeys worldwide, when it started, your mission statement, and your overall experience through the years?
Well, Iconic Journeys Worldwide was really started in December of 2017, but it was an outgrowth of a company that I started called Tunis USA that started as a part-time company. I was in the retail business of Oriental rugs and restoring antique rugs and furniture from around the world. And people would say to me, you seem to travel to some very interesting places. Do you need someone to carry your bags, or is there a way we can travel with you? So it started off very simply as the internet was starting to be recognized as a good vehicle for marketing, but at the early stages. So I would advertise that once or twice a year I would lead a tour. At that time it was to Tunisia or Turkey, two countries that I knew very well and that I went to frequently. So we started very small that way, and it would be 1 or 2 times a year. Then it would grow to being 2 or 4 times a year. I would leave my retail business because I had a staff there, and I would lead these tours. And as the internet became more mature, I was hearing from people in different parts of the country who saw on the internet or read articles that had been published about me. There was something in the New York Times and in Condé Nast Traveler magazine, and these media obviously have a broad reach. So people would call me and ask about different travels. So initially I was just doing Tunisia and Turkey. Then gradually that expanded to be other countries in the region. And this was all under the umbrella of Tunis USA, and it was growing and growing. We had our special niche of archaeology and culture and things of this nature. And more organizations, more and more people would find us. And this is how the company grew. But it reached a point, our highlight was 2010, but then Tunisia was the first place that had what we refer to, or the press refers to, as the Arab Spring. And this caused a tremendous commotion in Tunisia. It then moved to Egypt, to Syria, to Yemen, to other countries. But it was a spontaneous movement in Tunisia. No one could have planned that this was going to happen. And I was living there at the time. I was living in Tunisia for 6 years as a base for the operations of Tunis USA. But the revolution completely killed tourism. No one came, no one was inquiring, and I saw that it was a rather difficult predicament because I had given up my location in the United States to live in Tunisia so that it would be closer to the destinations that we were specializing in. To sustain myself through that, we would occasionally get calls, but not very often. But I was fortunate enough to get some consulting projects with the World Bank, the European Union, and I started a program for George Washington University's Division of Tourism in Tunisia that was with the State Department grant. And I just rode the period out. Every now and then business would start again in the travel business, but then there would be some political action. The U.S. Embassy was attacked. There might be a political assassination. And again, all travel stopped. And this was going on in neighboring countries. So people had just, in general, had a fear of the region. So as I felt that this was inhibiting our growth, and this closeness to the Middle East was also inhibiting people from wanting to come, I returned to the U.S. in 2016 and decided to rebrand the company to Iconic Journeys Worldwide, because we were already doing other countries. I had ventured into doing Cuba and India, and I felt rather than having a name such as Tunis USA that may have sounded too Middle East centric, I wanted to expand to what we were now doing. We were going more global. We were expanding what we were doing in terms of our destinations, and I wanted a name that would do this. So it took us about a year and a half of rebranding in our marketing to turn it over to that. And many people in the destinations only knew the company as Tunis USA, but in the US, in terms of our marketing, we were able to change that. And this has been for quite some time, as I say, since the latter part of 2017, it's been Iconic Journeys Worldwide. And that's the reason we started with that name. It's been something that has really expanded what we do anyhow, because we are doing more and more destinations every year.
And you also became the consul of Tunisia.
That's
Can you
right.
tell us about that as well?
Sure. Tunisia had always had a PR problem. When anything happened in the Middle East, whether it was in Iraq or Syria, Tunisia was thrown into that. People said, I'm not going to the region, despite the fact it's 4 or 5 hours away to go to Iraq or Syria. But Tunisia was lumped into everything. And I was friendly with people at the foreign ministry and the embassy, various foreign ministers and US and Tunisian ambassadors who served in Washington. And I kept saying to them, you have to do something to counter this bad reputation that Tunisia is getting. The embassy in Washington mainly deals with Congress. The embassy in New York is almost exclusively the UN. And I kept saying to them, you had to do something different. I explained to them that Philadelphia, as an example, has a large diplomatic corps. For those who don't know it, we have close to 70 diplomatic missions represented in Philadelphia's diplomatic corps, so it's become a very vibrant organization. And I said to the Tunisians, this is something you should be part of. So they asked that I become the honorary consul. I opened up a consulate for them in Philadelphia with the State Department jurisdiction through the whole Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I have both State Department diplomatic credentials and now also Tunisia. And this has been an opportunity to publicize Tunisia in other ways, to help counter issues about what's Tunisia doing vis-a-vis other countries in the region, and really just to give Tunisia a presence to what we do through tourism and other things involving the diplomatic corps here in Philadelphia. It gives an opportunity to present Tunisia in a positive light in conjunction with the 60 some odd countries that are in our diplomatic corps.
Excellent, excellent. I know throughout the years you traveled to many destinations worldwide. My question is, how do you choose your destinations? Based on what facts?
It's a very good question. I want the company to be specialists. In other words, if someone asked me to prepare a tour for them to go to South Africa, Costa Rica, Brazil, I really don't know these countries unless I had someone working within our company who really knew Brazil or Costa Rica. I just rather say to them, here's someone else you might want to contact for that. It's not our area. I feel it's important to be a specialist, particularly the areas that we're doing and the destinations. We have many people who will, the first thing they'll say is, we travel independently all the time, but for this destination, we would feel more comfortable having someone like Iconic Journeys Worldwide who understands it, who has the context, who can arrange things tailored to our interests. And for that reason, being a specialist is important. So my travels, which are quite constant, are to the destinations we do, so that I can constantly improve finding people who can be guest lecturers, people who can be potentially a very good guide. We don't want to have a typical guide. We want people who are academics, who want to moonlight, archaeologists, architects, things of this nature, so that we're getting a perspective from the guide who can speak to the clients in a much more extemporaneous way and tie in what's in Tunisia with the broader world. And this is what we do now with every country. So we're doing many countries now, but in each country, I want to constantly see our connections broaden, the topics which we can do in a program broaden. And to do that, it means a pretty regular visit. every place we do, I travel at least once a year, some of them more. The COVID situation of 2.5 years obviously stopped that, but I was constantly traveling, and that's how we were able to build up our destinations and hence build up our client base and our revenues.
Excellent, thank you for your answer. Some of the travelers are a little bit confused about some of the terms. So my question is, what is the difference between your small group tours and private individual tours?
Very good question. Our small group tours are some that are branded under the name of Iconic Journeys Worldwide. In other words, go to our website and see we're doing tours to Morocco on these dates, tours to Cuba on these dates, etc. But we do a lot of tours for organizations, particularly nonprofits, and this is an important part of our business. So for example, we've done a number of tours for former Peace Corps volunteers who served in Tunisia, and now that's 30 years later, they want to bring their spouse or their partner back to Tunisia, explore the area they spent time in, and this allows them to do it because it's not something that they're going to find advertised somewhere, a Peace Corps trip, but they can do it through us, and we'll do all the background information so that when they arrive, they're meeting different places that they served. The others in the group are also experiencing this because they also served in different places within the country, and it gives a specialized approach. We also have done group tours for many foreign policy organizations who are nonpartisan, secular, and we've done programs there with Israel and Palestine, with Turkey, with Tunisia, with India, and those type of programs, again, we can tailor to help the organization have a better understanding of that country, but also to see the cultural patrimony of such countries. That's our group tours, and usually they are small unless an organization wants it large. We started doing a lot of programs in Iran based from 2009, and there were a number of organizations that, of course, wanted to try Iran. People were very skeptical of it, but we developed a good ground support of guides who I had met over time, people who can be guest speakers, knowing the country. I've been there many times. So this was a case where we brought in a new destination, and people really found it interesting to go to Iran. And typically, someone may say, my wife and I traveled to many places on our own, but for Iran, we would feel more comfortable being guided and having it organized for our group. Now, as far as private tours, we may have the same person who says, we don't want to travel with a group, but we have another couple we like traveling with. Can you design something for that? And they may say something like, I'm a doctor, we're both doctors, and is there any chance when we're in Iran we can meet Iranian doctors? I'm an educator, can I meet an Iranian educator? So this is the beauty of a private tour. We do these type of things all the time. It's probably at least 50% of our business doing the private tours. Many other companies don't want to bother with private tours. Either they think it's not worthwhile or they don't want to scale down to that. My feeling is every person who goes on a program is going to come back and tell their friends that they enjoyed it. So whether it's 2 people or 20 people, it's very important because the real growth of Iconic Journeys Worldwide has been through referrals and word of mouth. While we do quite a bit of marketing in terms of print, direct mail, and social media, without question, the most valuable referrals are those that bring us new clients. So that's the main difference with the private tour, that we're able to tailor everything to the clients. We do private tours in every country we're involved in, and sometimes we'll actually start with the private tours before moving into a group tour.
Excellent, excellent. Can you tell me how things become since the COVID-19 global pandemic on the travel industry in general and on iconic journeys worldwide in particular?
Well, I would say Iconic Journeys Worldwide has suffered the same problem that the whole travel industry suffered. It completely stopped. And when it started, COVID, in March 2020, no one knew whether it was going to be 90 days, 2 months, 3 months. No one expected it to go on for more than 2 years. So it devastated the travel industry. There are many large companies that laid off hundreds of people because there was no one even calling to explore travel. I think everyone can remember where they were during this period. One place they were not was usually traveling. They were not traveling. They were, in many cases, countries closed their borders to travel. Countries would say you have to go to a hotel for 5 days before you can travel within a country. And even beyond that, many airlines stopped going to places. So the travel industry was really devastated. I don't think there's any exception, whether it's cruise or airlines or what kind of tours they were, it ended. And for companies to go 2 years without revenues is devastating. It doesn't make any difference if it's a travel company or another type of business. To go 2 years with no revenues, not knowing when it's going to end, it's hard to plan what to do and how to rectify it. Because if the planes aren't flying and the cruise ships aren't going, you're not going to be able to do anything to rejuvenate your business. So this was difficult for all of us. I think we were lucky as a smaller company. We're much more nimble. A large company often can't make these changes. We heard of many large companies that either went bankrupt or they slashed almost all their employees and they're first now rebuilding. But we were able to make it through those 2 years, not easily, but now we've started, and fortunately since September, it's gotten quite busy again. We have quite a bit of demand. What we lost really were the bookings we had during those 2 years because people stopped traveling. Some of them have since started traveling with us. They came back and said, that tour you arranged for us, we'd like to do it now. But there are many people who are still skeptical of traveling or for one reason or another, just haven't resumed the travel that they once did.
Excellent, excellent. Now, can you talk about your expectation for 2023 in terms of travelers changing their minds, they are more willing to travel? We hear some good news about most regions worldwide are bouncing back. The numbers and the statistics are somehow close to the pre-pandemic area where we see some more tourists are traveling worldwide. So what are your expectations for 2023?
Well, our expectations are for growth. We've already been seeing this just since the fall. We're growing quickly again. Most of the people are people who've been past clients, but we're also getting new clients. We've been very fortunate. We've been honored by Condé Nast Traveler magazine 13 years in a row as a top travel specialist. They list us as a top travel specialist for Israel, for Iran, for Cuba, and for Israel and Palestine. And the reason I say Israel and Palestine, there are other specialists in Israel, but very few tour companies do things in Israel that also involve the West Bank. There's some 2.2 million Palestinians living within the boundaries of the Green Line, so to speak, the period that was Israel since 1948, but there's another 2 million living in the West Bank. So there's a whole culture there, and many of the historic sites are there, and our feeling is that if someone's coming to the region, let them really see the whole picture. And we've been very successful with doing programs for organizations that involve both Israelis and Palestinians. We've had many visits at the PLO headquarters in Ramallah, where we'll have one of the top negotiators speak to us. We've had meetings with mayors of different Palestinian towns, with Palestinian college students. So there's been a lot of that, And we've also done the similar with the Israelis, where we've had government speakers, political activists, party leaders, intelligence people who can talk about things they did as far as intelligence work in the Arab world. So we really are able to do things that no other tour company is doing. It's a very balanced approach, and in doing it, we show no signs of leaning one way or the other. Now we also do tours in Israel for people who just want to go with their family. We just had two families come back that together are friends, and they mainly just wanted to see the historic sites and concentrate on the Jewish aspect. So we can adapt to anything in the region. And again, this is the beauty of what we try and do by constantly going back and learning the destination. It's not every organization that goes to the region who can arrange a meeting with one of the top PLO negotiators or with an Israeli retired officer who was in the intelligence unit and did things in Syria. So this is why there's a constant travel. In Cuba, where I've been 15 times, we were doing a lot of tours up until the time of COVID. During our Cuban tours, we've had people who are former Cuban diplomats come and speak, artists, musicians. We did something with the Philadelphia Orchestra members in Cuba that was absolutely fascinating. We were able to do things that don't lock us into having an ongoing tour that's constantly the same from time to time. We're able to adapt and tailor what we do to make the trip more interesting for the clients who are subsequently going on it.
Excellent. As the travel industry is bouncing back, and we hear these daily on the news, can you tell us about your upcoming tours for 2023?
We're expanding in a number of areas. India is a big country, and while many tour companies will do what's called the triangle, the area from Delhi to parts of Rajasthan and Jaipur. We are doing many regions of the country, from West Bengal up to Darjeeling, down in the south, where we cover a lot of areas. So while many of these India programs are private tours, it gives us the ability to constantly expand, because India is a very big country. And having visited it one time and saying, I was in India, that's wonderful. It's a fascinating country, but there are so many other regions that are different that are good to visit. We're also going to be doing programs in the former area of Yugoslavia, so Croatia, Bosnia, and also Serbia. So we'll be doing programs that go from one area to the other. Clients will learn about the differences in the region. In some cases, we'll get into why problems started, but that's a very sensitive a topic to get into, because some people, the war is still very close to them. So we're very careful about who we have these subjects with. Another area of growth for us is Lebanon, which very few Americans have been going to Lebanon. Most of the travelers who go there are from the Lebanese diaspora, which is much larger than the population in Lebanon. And we do everything from archaeological tours to meeting with political activists to exploring the mountains, which is the area which was the heartland of the Christian communities. Many of them have small churches and areas where monks live, and some of that is still taking place. We're also going to be adding Cyprus, partly because of its proximity to Lebanon, but it's also an area with interesting architecture. You have the situation of occupied Cyprus, as a Greek Cypriots would say, which is northern Cyprus, which is occupied by the Turks. So we're expanding in more and more areas, and this is not going to end. We'll be doing some things in Southeast Asia and some more things in Latin America. But we take everything in time until we have all the right people on the ground, people who we know are reliable, and who we can see and constantly grow with. We have also, unfortunately, because of politics, had to lose certain destinations. During the Trump administration, when Trump decided to end the nuclear talks, which were called the 5+1 talks, and at the same time institute a ban on 7 Muslim countries, Iran being one of them, our business completely ended. To this day, Iran is not giving visas out. So we lost something that was very important because we were often doing 3, 4, 5 tours a year to Iran, between group tours and private tours. We were just starting to do programs in Ethiopia, but Ethiopia, it has been going through a war, which is slowly ending, so we think, but still it's a problem. We obviously don't want to take people to a country that's undergoing war. So those are 2 places where we invested the time and the interest and the money to develop, but no longer can really do them. We hope in both cases, countries like that will change in terms of their politics and their relation with the U.S., and hopefully one day we can resume programs to these countries. Even Cuba, which we were doing mini tours all the time, both private tours and group tours, Cuba went through a period of being locked down with their borders during COVID, and they continued that until November of 2022. And just now have started again, but many of the airlines who went there are no longer going. They will resume, but this is also something that happens with politics. We have to go with what takes place that inhibits travel, and we don't want to take people to areas that are not safe.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, my next question is, if I'm a traveler and I look at your upcoming tours in the website and I've seen some dates for certain tours, for example, Lebanon. However, my issue is the time is different. The time you're offering that tour, I am not available. What can I do?
There's a couple things you can do. If you say to us, for example, well, I'll be more available in spring of 2024, chances are we'll be doing something there if we have enough people who tell us that March 2024 or April 2024 is a convenient time for them. We will simply arrange to do a tour then, and hopefully those people and others will join it. The second option is we're doing a lot of private tours in Lebanon. So that's a solution where dates really don't make any difference. We'll adapt to the client. And the cost of doing a private tour for 2 people or 4 people is not that much more than doing a group program. But the clients, of course, have the ability to tailor to their interests and their dates.
Excellent. Jerry, over the years, you took so many travelers to many destinations. What do you hear from your travelers about your tours, and what drives them to travel with Iconic Journey Worldwide?
Well, the fact that so much of our business is by referral is one example that our clients are telling their friends. This was a great tour. We were able to do it in a way that we haven't experienced with other tours. So that is without question the general feedback that we get, whether it's directly from the client or by the way of sending someone else who tells us so-and-so recommended they did a trip with you to Turkey, or they did a trip with you to Cuba. So that's a very important vehicle for us to know that. But our clients keep coming back. We do a lot of repeat business. We have many people who've been with us to 4 or 5 different destinations. So once someone has traveled with us, they usually are able to come back to their friends and others to say, you know, we didn't just see the country, but we saw the people. We had an opportunity to meet the people, which is a whole other thing than simply looking at the patrimony, the architecture, the archaeology, and things of that nature. Once you have an opportunity to meet a Cuban farmer or someone who is a professor of a certain topic in a country, it starts to give you a different feeling about what's making up that country, what's making up their economy, what's the political situation, and how decisions of that country really can be seen by those of us in the United States. So this is a very important part of what we do, the personalization of it and the opportunity to meet with people from that destination. And we know for a fact that this is something our clients really enjoy.
Excellent. One more final question. How can I keep in touch with Iconic Journey Worldwide? And what is the best ways to contact Iconic Journeys Worldwide for my 2023 future tours and trips?
Without question, the best way now is to provide Iconic Journeys Worldwide with your email. We have a number of places on our website where you can sign up because we're doing e-blasts or emailings quite frequently. These are both informative in terms of talking about a culture, talking about a destination, or it might be talking about upcoming dates. So the website and the web work we're doing, we've got a great webmaster who designs these things. It's the best way for a client to be in touch. We also do direct mail, which goes to your home, but this is something that, like most people in marketing, they are moving more and more towards electronic. In our case, we still do both because we often have people on our direct mail list who we don't have by email, and vice versa. We have people by email who we don't have for direct mail. So both are good ways for us to contact you, both having your home address and also, most importantly, by signing up for email with us.
Excellent, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think what's the other thing that I'd like to add is one of the things we really pride ourselves on is we provide a lot of information before you even sign up for a tour, before you even send us a deposit. We'll spend time with you on the phone. We write proposals which are rather thorough. They're not skeletal suggestions of Monday we're here, Tuesday we're here, but rather they're narratives that provide both the content of what the tour will be, but also provide historical insight to that country. And we also have photographs in them. So someone, when they receive our proposals, they show Iconic Journeys Worldwide really knows this destination. And that's another reason why being on email and contacting us, or picking up the phone and calling us, or sending us your home address, all these things allow us to communicate with you. And communication with our clients is something we love doing. At this point, we have no interest in being an e-commerce place where you just click on that you want to be on this store in March, but rather still we are of a size and of the ability to adapt that being able to speak with potential clients on the phone is the best thing. Some people prefer email dialogues, but either way, we want to spend the time getting to know that client so that we're really suggesting to them what will be the most interesting and enjoyable for them.
Thank you so much, Jerry. This has been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you, and looking forward to have more interviews with you in the near future.
Thank you for being here.